for purposes of honoring a time. Oh, David, how are you? Good.
The office is down, can you get downstairs?
I, no,
Do I lock it for now?
yeah, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna, like the.
Should I do the lock it?
I'll be, yeah, I'm gonna let the meeting go right down there, but I have keys, so if you wanna lock it for a few minutes, I don't really. Yeah, it's right down.
Stuff it when somebody's on holiday for 2 weeks and we're gonna start posting work stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see what we should say. Oh, yeah.
Bridget, do you know which input this is supposed to be on?
Oh, yeah, PC.
No, let's watch something on Prime. It'll be much more interesting.
I watched the Gabby Bertito documentary the other night.
I don't know how they're making documentaries so quickly after things happen.
Isn't it more interesting though now that you're here, I mean, and geographically,
Yeah.
and you know the area even that much better and you can feel that,
I mean, this of it.
yeah. All right, so it is 5 o'clock on August 26, 2025. We will call this meeting to order. It is a work session for the Town of Georgetown Board of Selectmen. And I will do the roll call. Mary Smith. Rob Connell.
Here.
Amanda Cooper is coming. Alex Sassoon.
Yeah.
Dwayne is coming. And Rich Barrows is coming. All right, very good. Thank you. On our agenda item today, we have one item. We are going to have a presentation by Sam Light from Sarasa. Sam, thank you very much for being here. And we are going to discuss our ethics and code of conduct. You should have that information in your packet, as well as some handouts from Sam, a booklet and some documentation that looks like this. And also you should have a printout of what Mr. Light is going to discuss with us today. So thank you very much. Please come forward and do your presentation. I think you're gonna be on screen, right?
Yes.
Bridget.
We're
Okay.
just gonna load the slides onto the screen there, and thank you, Your Honor, and Selectmen, thanks for having me out to visit, yes. So my name is Sam Light, and I'm Deputy Executive Director and General Counsel for CIRSA, which is an acronym for the Colorado Intergovernmental Risk and Sharing Agency, which is kind of a mouthful, so why we call it CIRSA, right? So, we're your insurance provider for property and casualty coverage, right? So we cover everything from, this building to your vehicles, to the more esoteric risks that municipalities face, even the slip and fall risk in front of town hall. Police liability, general liability, all that kind of thing. Just want to take one moment to talk a little bit more about what CIRSA is, because we're different than a commercial insurance company. We are what's called a public entity self-insurance pool. And we're formed under Colorado statute. We are formed back in 1982. We are owned and controlled by our members. A pool, public entity pool, is somewhat similar to a mutual insurance company, but it's a public entity pool. Our only owners and our only book of business is insuring Colorado cities and towns and affiliated entities like housing authorities, regional authorities, regional transportation authorities, regional communication authorities, that kind of thing. To give you a sense of our size, we have 294 members, and we insure about 90% of the cities and towns in the state of Colorado. So that's almost all of them except for a couple, the really big ones, the Denvers, the Colorado Springs, they tend to self-insure or buy excess at a very high level. And frankly, that big an organization with a pool concept would be a little bit of a tail wagging the dog, but we insure about 90% of the municipalities. So, one of the things about being a member-owned organization, our board of directors is made up of member representatives from around the state, is that you all, as a public entity, locally are doing the right thing to be good stewards of the cities, the town's own interest and assets, right? So then on behalf of our 295 members, we aggregate that up, right? So if we share that same philosophy, right, of being good stewards, and it influences our approach to risk management, right? We think that proactive risk management benefits everybody, right, by helping you avoid a claim you might otherwise have, right? But the idea that we have resources is make resources available to our members around risk management, and then there is much of them as you want to use. So that's what some of my handouts are, just to move quickly. The source at a glance handout just tells you more about the types of risk management, risk control services we provide to organizations. It's mostly for your management team. It's organized by silo function. That's function is show you the kinds of things that are available if you'd like to use any of those sources. And the way it interacts with why I'm here is that one of the things that I do along with my boss, the executive director, is we offer elected and appointed official trainings. So we try to get out every couple of years and interact with you all. So you can learn more about service on that handout. And then there are a couple more handouts related to risk issues at the governing body level, the elected and appointed official level that I'll just point out as we go through the material. And I know that we're gonna talk, you're gonna talk about your code of conduct. You already have a version of it in the adopted code, is that right? Oh, okay. I thought I saw something in the packet that maybe that was from the other three.
That's a draft, that's the.
That's a draft.
Talking about, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so you're gonna be working on that. I'm happy to take questions from sources perspective on those kinds of documents, right, and what that process might look like, but I'm gonna do a little bit more globally, which is a little bit of risk management training for you all as the elected officials. They also translate to appointed officials as well. But I want to make our time useful to you, so if you have questions, jump in at any time. Okay? Sound
Thank you.
good? Yes, thank you for having me. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Though I am a lawyer, I try not to get too legalistic, so I try to talk about suggestions for best practices, about how you do your job and as appointed officials and how you expect your appointed officials, right? I assume most of your appointed officials are appointed by the board and subject essentially to a job description that's written by the board, right? So these suggestions translate into whether you're elected or appointed, but I think they're suggestions that will help, you succeed individually as members and then collectively as a body, whether it's the elected governing body or the appointed planning commission, right? They all want to embrace, I think, a collaborative attitude around doing the right thing always, right? And governing in a way that always reflects the fact that we're public officials. And fair or unfair, like it or not, that we all agree public officials are held to a higher standard, right? So these are some of the most issues and good governance concepts around that. We'll talk about roles and fiduciary responsibility, a little bit about organizational structure. That's where I geek out a little bit on the legal stuff, is to remind you, some people ask me, am I at risk as an elected or appointed official of actual personal liability? I'm gonna talk about what those concepts are and how to manage that. And then we'll talk about ethics and personal conduct. You have a wonderful town attorney, Jerry Dahl. If I have that right? Yeah, Jerry was one of my mentors. We always look to each other when there's an issue that comes up, like, I'm the Dahl, it's just Jerry, and he professes to tell me the same thing. But I am an attorney, this is in legal advice. So as you know, if you need legal advice for today's burning question, that's for Jerry and his team, not for me. I'm still happy to give you a couple thoughts, but that's for Jerry. Okay, same thing with the question that my radar will go off and tell me, that's actually Dennis's wheelhouse. So that's a question for Dennis and his team. All right, let's go to the next slide. Alright.
Sam, I apologize, I might just step out for about 30 minutes, but if you would just put the arrow and you can keep going through the slides.
Do you have an extra port?
What kind of?
Or a USB port?
Yeah, we don't need your design.
There you go. Solve that instantly. Pretty likely to do it. And we plug that into the extra port, we should have a reading there. Okay.
Let me ask you a question, just, as the instance of you having to travel and talk to boards about code of conduct, have the, like. Has there been a greater demand recently?
It's a pretty steady demand.
Okay.
Yeah, it rises, I think, as folks take a stronger interest in embracing and emulating good governance principles and civility, but frankly, obviously, there's a flip side of that too. I think I was asked when I go around, we all agree with this notion, does there seem to be a little bit of a rising tide of incivility in government? Yeah, well, I think local governments in Colorado are tuned to that, and they're trying to stay ahead of that issue. So, yeah, but just as a matter of course, we've been doing this since our founding 40 years ago, so we try to get out. Typically around election time, and if you have turnover, we'll do orientations for new members, we'll try to do the members every couple of years if they would like us out, and if not, that's fine too. We have an elected officials homepage for you as well on our website, you can find that, there's some drop down menus, if there's anything there of interest, so let's see if this actually works.
Oh, added to Dennis's
Uh-oh.
job description.
Or it's other duties as assigned. I thought of God. Okay.
That's right, Dennis is on it.
Dennis, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna move through this real quick, but just in a very broad sense, so this informs kind of your expectations for yourselves. And for your appointed officials, but it's framed in terms of an expectation of the citizens, right? Do you agree that when you're an elected official, you become an elected official, your role in relationships in the community changes pretty dramatically, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
remind your appointed officials of that. People who are in the know, they know, and fair or unfair, being an elected or appointed official is a 24/7 job, from a certain perspective. Yes, have a personal life, please enjoy it, but elected and appointed officials are held to a higher standard. And you know how it goes. You may be out in the community on a weekend thinking you're doing something on your own personal time with your family, but a constituent sees you or sees an appointed official that, there's the police judge over there. I'm gonna go talk to her about some town business. And all of a sudden that hat is, well, it never came off. That hat was back on, right? So as they should, our words, our deeds, our conduct matters as elected and appointed officials, right? And so we just need to understand that part of the job, right? If we can go back, just go back to where they're at.
Fingers don't do either.
Whoops. And then,
You're tired.
in terms of that, remind folks, sometimes the attitude is, I wanna get elected or appointed, I wanna, shake things up. You have to remember that when you're once you get elected or appointed to serve, you're not on the inside. And like it or not, on the inside, the rules stick to us, and the expectation is we have to follow our rules, right? That's true even if we don't like a rule, or we didn't have a role in adopting it, or even, for the more strident, some folks want to seek an appointment or an election and say, I want to get in there because I want to undo something, right? But that's very dangerous, right? Particularly in matters of ethics, for someone to say, well, I don't like that rule, I didn't have a hand in drafting it, and everybody that elected me expects me to do something different than this. And it doesn't work that way, there's risk around that issue, okay? You all know that it's particularly at the top of the organizational pyramid as the elected leader, but it's true for the appointees as well. The job, in my estimation, requires us to be a good representative of the organization, the company, the town of Georgetown, the one and only that is organized pursuant to a territorial charter, right? A good representative, a good ambassador, and a fiduciary, right? So let's go to the next slide. That quote on that slide, there's right out of the state code of ethics that says the holding of public office is a public trust, right? And at that level, it means that fulfilling that fiduciary responsibility, it means, right? The fiduciary responsibility, we all intuitively know what it means, but legally it means it's the obligation to put the interests of the organization that we serve as a fiduciary, the town, and the public interest above all other interests, right? Above our own personal interests, above sometimes that, you ever have this issue, this dynamic, sometimes you have, you got how many residents in town? What's our population?
1,203.
1,200. 1,203, we only got 7 people that were elected, right? And even when the room is packed, and they're very emotional, it's a very small but vocal minority of an individual. So the obligation of fiduciary obligation is to be a good representative, not only of that, but of the silent majority. And sometimes the dynamic is the room may be full of people telling you, do this, and the next person says, no, don't do that. But you're thinking to yourselves as the elected officials, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. Right, so one of your primary risk management tools that you ought to use to your benefit, advantage, and protection is to make sure you take the time you need and get good information from your administrator's team that'll help you make decisions that'll serve that fiduciary interest. Yeah, it's not gonna be easy all the time. Sometimes somebody's gonna be asking you to do an end run, around some policy or procedure, or someone's gonna be trying to convince you, you know, what's in front of you tonight during public comment is an absolute crisis that you must act on tonight, but if you're as fiduciary is feeling that's not right, or you need more support from your manager, hey, Dennis, let's have a chance to chime in on what our options are, what our resources are, or even give us thoughts on whether this is even a priority for us to leap into this issue. Then you wanna keep all those dynamics in mind, service of your fiduciary responsibility. Let's keep going. If you think about fiduciaries, which you are, it's exactly what state law says you are. You think about some of the other aspects of fiduciary duty, right? Duty of care. And that's, you know, what you do as part of your job, looking after the dollars, the budget, right, and the assets of the town. Duty of impartiality. You don't deal with a lot of these, but that's where, when you're making licensing decisions, or you have some land use matter that's in front of you, the law requires you to be impartial. That's part of that fiduciary responsibility, duty of accountability. That's all what open meetings and open records is all about, right? Is it elected appointed officials as part of the fiduciary responsibility to help, like, secure faith and trust in government? Probably, right? So keep those thoughts in mind, and I remind whether they're an elected body or everybody, we're all elected or appointed to be one member of a multi-member public. Mostly volunteers, you get monthly stipend?
Nope.
Yeah,
No.
all
Probably
volunteers.
don't see as a problem.
A citizen
was strong.
volunteer multi-member public body, which requires that we bring to the table, yes, our own voice, and yes, deliberate with many voices. But getting work done and taking action as a body requires that we speak with one voice. And so success individually and as a body requires collaboration, bringing people around to our way of looking at things and being accepting of the fact that if we aren't able to do that, that we're willing to set aside our own personal preference, our own personal voice, can be very destructive. And we've had plenty of risk issues around the idea of some decision was made, but somebody didn't like that decision, but they tried to undo it, right? And they created a risk for the organization. All right, let's go to the next slide. Organizational structure and liability. I hope your first question for Jerry when you got elected or appointed was not this, you know, can I get sued? As a member of the board, the answer of course is yes. Because we all know this, right? Jerry's probably covered this, or staff is. Just remember, you have good protections under Colorado law. The law essentially says this, that the town, and by extension, SRSA, will defend you and pay judgments entered against you for acts or omissions as an elected official. Same thing's true with appointed official, right? But like so many things in life, there's a catch to that, right? Those protections only apply so long as we're acting within the scope of our employment and not acting in a willful and wanton manner. Two sort of bizarre phrases there. Scope of employment sounds odd to an elected and appointed official because they're thinking, what do you mean scope of employment? I'm not a full-time employee, subject to the personnel rules like our town administrator or other staff. So I guess that doesn't apply to me. It absolutely does, right? The takeaway for you all and for your appointed officials, just remember, scope of employment is the phrase that's used in the Governmental Immunity Act that provides you protection when you're staying within your scope of employment. And it simply means one must understand their duties, their job description, and as important, understand what responsibilities, authorities, and duties have been allocated to others within the organization. So easy example that shows the continuum, because this concept of allocation of authority permeates every municipal organization. But the easy example is within our organizational structure here in Georgetown, within whose job description, within whose scope of employment is it to decide whether someone in the first instance gets a short-term rental permit or not. The administrator, right?
Yeah.
That's what your ordinance says, right? So within his scope of employment, ain't not only the board, but everybody else, right? And so that's true both in, you know, on its face. But the risk issue comes up when people are, you know, trying to direct the exercise of authority that they don't have. We've got plenty of complaints who say, well, I understand what your code says, and I understand it's the town clerk or the code enforcement official or the manager or administrator who is supposed to make that decision under your own ordinances. But my allegation is that there are other people directing that the permit or license or approval be granted or withheld, right? And that's how we end up with situations where there are people getting pulled up in the complaint. So that's the scope of employment piece. We're gonna talk in a minute about just how that translates into understanding and staying within the role, okay? And then willful and wanton conduct, it sounds as ominous as it is, and that's just bad stuff. Okay, the most common fact pattern that you see at source for claims being made against individual elected or appointed officials or willful and wanton conduct is just someone misperceiving that they've got some governmental authority they don't have, right? Throwing on the purported cloak of governmental authority and going around doing bad things to people for the wrong reasons. And it really would be bad stuff. It would be like, oh, I don't know, an appointed official who, you know, misbelieves that they've got some power over the building department, throws on this purported cloak and directs the building official to turn down a building permit for someone who happens to be their business competitor. Sound like a good idea?
No.
So that's intuitive, right? We know where bad stuff is, but it's still, you know, knock on wood, it still crops up every now and then. All right, let's talk about organizational structure. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, you know this is just showing the hierarchy within your own structure, right? You've got that territorial charter that sets the broad framework. The allocation of power is generally this: you, the town board, is the legislative and governing body. I analogize it to the board of directors of a private corporation. You've got the board of directors sets policy and is the legislative arm of the organization. Your town administrator, right out of your ordinance, is your chief administrative officer responsible for the day-to-day management. So I don't get too deep on this or harp on it too much, but it's truly the case, right? That there's a distinction between policy and administration that you set up, you know, of your own volition. And that's, it's a great place to be to have those resources. So as the elected and appointed officials, you want to make sure you use that structure effectively and to your advantage, right? And likewise, staff understands and knows that if something is in only the board's policy wheelhouse, then it's the board's issue, right? And then your board of commissions, they have specific decision-making functions. And I looked through your documents, looks like most of your boards and commissions, if not all of them, when they ask, what's my job description? Right? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? Good place to start for them is pointed to the ordinance. Most of ordinances are, I think, right? Promote, hey, this is it. This is it. Being an appointed official is not tantamount to being an eighth member of the board of selectmen, right? And it's not tantamount to being a super town manager. It's a very defined role in which we want your citizen participation. Thank you. Right? Stepping up to be an appointed official town, but you have a very specific role, whether it's the DRC you call it, right? Which makes these design review decisions up. They're gonna require, you know, some folks who are willing to put in that hard work to get into the nitty gritty technical details about historic preservation, right? To the other ones, it might be just purely advisor to the board, right? Which are those? You know, I'm trying to remember some of the names.
Parks Commission.
Parks Commission, right? They're making recommendations that you ultimately decide as a policy matter or as a funding matter, right? About resource allocation. So remind them of that, right? It's an important piece to make sure everybody's staying within their lane, right? So we're all fine. It's not that we're silos. We're all in the same pool together trying to get stuff done. But we do have to stay in our lane. If you want to hear the rest of that analogy, it makes for a corny joke. But the analogy is we're all in the pool swimming in our lane. It's not a freewheeling water polo match. Right? Local government, we're all doing our thing in our lane and help the organizations to see. Okay, so the next slide. That's just the way it looks, in graphic format. I think when you as the governing body are spending your time in that ownership strata, right, and your manager, you know, management, supervision, frontline stuff. That means that you as the legislative body don't want to be selfish about defining your work plan around the big stuff that only a board can do. Remember, there's no redundancy at the board level. If you have a department head who resigns, you can always have your administrator fill that with an interim department head, right? But if the board members or the appointed officials decide that they would rather do something other than than what their role is, right? Then who's doing the job of the board or the appointed board, right? There's no such thing as the ability to appoint, right, an interim to do your roles. That's why I encourage you to look at the hierarchy and say, this is where we want to spend our time and energy as the governing body. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's tips around that. So as I said, the job description is important. If you're gonna adopt the rules of conduct, that'll be another place to look. Some of our members, they have something called a boarding commission handbook. You might think it's something useful. Not a lot of members, I would say a smaller minority of our members have that, but that's another way to get appointed officials oriented to their role within the organization and some of the broader expectations. Recognize, you know this, but remind your appointed officials, sometimes the appointed officials, it feels so informal. And it feels so constraining to them. What do you mean every time three or more of us want to talk, we have to get in touch with staff and get an agenda posted and have it as a public meeting in town hall? Well, yeah, that's what the law requires, right? But remind them that the advisory boards and the governing body, we do our work, right? Collectively as a body, and we do almost all, and we can only do decision making and take action within duly called public meetings. So remind them of that, and it really is, in my estimation, the idea that the we is more important than the me. From a risk management standpoint, I really think it is a red flag, right? Mayor, do you have during your meetings, do you have opportunity for each member to make comments? Yeah, so sometimes the dynamic will be, I may say, okay, great discussion, everybody. Do anybody have anything to report before we reach adjourn? And somebody says, and this is true at the advisory board level too. And he says, oh yeah, since our last meeting, I did this. And everyone's eyes open wide and go, you did what? Right? It's a wise body that sees that. It may never create a risk to a third party, right? But it's an opportunity for the body to get together and talk about what are our norms and expectations for how we individually represent either the town board or our advisory board in between meetings, because we ought to all be working towards that goal of making the organizational stronger, not allow ourselves to have issues where there are surprise moments about individual conduct of individual members, right? So, you as the board as the ultimate boss of the appointed officials probably need to keep attuned to that, although your administrator, right, could be a person who helps kind of see those issues, spot those issues and deal with them. And maybe that's the place where they get resolved before it ever becomes a full-blown blown issue. Okay, so next slide. Remind yourselves and appointed folks that this idea of role discipline, particularly important in employee relations, right? You have it embodied right in your town code. From your perspective, it says that the mayor, members of the board, do not give orders to town staff. Just remember what perceptions can be created and impacts. Yeah, we're informal, collegial supportive organization, and probably talk to staff, but just remember what the perceptions are from their perspective, right? Even something as innocent seeming from your perspective of something like saying to someone below the level of the administrator, hey, I'd like to see this, right? Or a question that they might perceive as a pointed question of, why are you doing that? Right, might disempower your supervisors, right, might lead to uncertainty about what that line employee is supposed to be doing, right? But we know the difference between just a request for information or being friendly and reporting to give directions to staff. But the wonderful thing is you also want to avoid, creating telephone type issues where, if you have any questions for the administrative side of the organization, that's why you have the CEO administrator form of government can help you have a single point of contact for that. Let's go to the next slide. And in that regard, right, establishing collaboration with your administrator, systems for bringing forward questions and concerns. It's not that administrative matters are completely hands-off, right? But you want to have systems that make sure that the information works appropriately, right? From where you sit as the elected officials, and I get this from a constituent standpoint. Let's say you ever have a situation where a constituent, they have some business to do with town hall, they're frustrated. They went to town hall, but they got the right answer, but they're from town hall, but they're still frustrated, and they call you. Right? So they have to be careful of that, right, and make sure we understand, well, do I have all the information to respond to this? Should I be jumping into this? Are there more than one side to this story? Is this an attempted end run around some policy or ordinance that we as a board just worked so hard on, right? So those are all things that reflect making sure you have good working relationships and protocols in place, right? Among those the documents that are in your packet, I think that some of them do reflect the idea of how do we deal with communications from constituents, right, or requests from the media, and you can see which ones might be helpful to you. But I would tell you, as you work on your updates to your rules of conduct, you want to work on it in a way that you have buy-in from the ground up. Like Erie or Blue River, or I don't know if there's another one back in.
For council.
Those are all good examples probably, but those are what they decided for themselves, the language might be a good starting point, but before you sign off, I'm gonna say, is this really what we want for ourselves? So that when we use it in practice, we go, yeah, we built this thing ground up and bought into it ourselves, okay? So make sure you have those norms of conduct and guidelines around issues. I think the rules of conduct or whatever you call them. Meeting procedures, protocol, et cetera, main gap issues that sometimes fill in are things like communications with staff, communication with citizens, communications with the media, requests for use of staff time, protection of confidential information, whatever other issues you think might be wanting of some attention where having a uniform roundup, everybody should do, or at least majority buys into, these are our expectations, is a good way to go. All right. Lastly, committed to speak with one voice to your direct reports. That's true whether it's your administrator or the staff liaison for the advisory board, right? You don't want to go around the room and the mayor says, hey, great discussion, let's give Dennis some direction, and we go around the table, we got 7 different ideas of what the direction is. That is definitely the time when we turn to Dennis and say, hey, you got your direction. No, but we know who owns that issue. The board. And you want to, right? You're the boss in that situation, but you have to commit to each other as board members to resolve your board level differences. So that you as a board can speak with one voice, whether that one voice is 7-0 or 4 3s, and decide the point, but it has to be that one voice. All right, let's go on. We'll move quickly here to finish up. Ethics, I do want to point out that a lot of this is on a handout. I'm not sure I'm proud of it, but I guess I will claim to be proud of it. Do you agree that codes of ethics tend to seem like a lot of legalese? There's a lot of legalese in those codes of ethics. And then, the state statute's 20-some pages long, right? So make sure that you find a good resource, work through what the rules are, because the best risk management tool you have around ethics is to have a good working expectation of what the rules are, so that you're prepared to spot and deal with issues long before they become full-blown problems, right? So I don't know, whatever it looks like to you all, maybe it's Jerry's already done it, Dennis already does. Have a working understanding of what constitutes a conflict of interest. So I can know and spot, down the road, if I have something coming up, I've got former business partner or a relative who's involved in that, does that have any direct and substantial impact on my own financial interest? What does that look like? Your staff, and remind your advisory board of this, ethics issues are not, ethics issues that are not attended to are not like wine, right? Yeah, they just get ignored, they get worse, they get rotten, right? So, and your staff, your attorney and your administrator can't be your personal ethics advisor, right? But they'd love to hear, in advance, hey, I've got some issue, can you help remind me how the code works so I get an understanding? It's much better than having it unfold at the dais in the moment when some citizen stands up and says, I thought you had a conflict, why are you still participating, right? So it's plan ahead and get those resources to help them. So there are rules, they're on that one page handout. Just make sure everybody has a good working understanding of what a conflict of interest is, what the recusal requirements are, what the disclosure requirements are. Remember to protect confidential information. If you have an executive session, it requires a supermajority to go into executive session. Remind yourselves that we're in executive session, it's our responsibility to stay on topic and also to protect that confidential information. And that's true even if we voted go against the executive session, and even if we can't stand the idea of what was discussed. As legal fiduciaries, it's our obligation to protect the confidential information of the town as determined by the board. And no one individual has the power, right, or should have the power to waive the confidence, and it undermines your own reason for going into executive session. And then gifts is another issue. And that's an easy one we got a constitutional amendment about gifts in Colorado, but my easy takeaway is if it doesn't look right, it's not right, they just decline the gift, right? If anybody offers you a gift that somehow appears to be attached to your public service, they'll reward you. Or attempt to influence you from the faithful and impartial discharge of duties, then we say no thanks. So, and then when it's all said and done, last thing in terms of the gut check around ethics is, again, to go back to my early comments. Sometimes in public life or the public elected or appointed official, fair or unfair, perception is reality and reality is perception. Agree? The right matters of ethics that can raise its head sometimes, you know, it means different things to us individually, but I think that's part of the analysis. Is what are the perceptions, am I willing to accept the perceptions, have I dealt with the perceptions of impacts? If I can create it, okay. Lastly, go above and beyond ethics, right? Commit to high levels of personal conduct. I think it really does require elected or appointed service on a multi-member public volunteer citizen organization does sometimes ask of us that we engage in personal conduct that, yeah, like personally, I prefer not, but we're doing it in view of our fiduciary responsibility, in view of making the board, the commission stronger as an institution. And some examples of things like are setting aside a personal agenda when there's lack of support. And they say, my number one priority for running for office was for us to get an ordinance that does this. That if I can't find 3 members to come along with me, I have to be willing to shelve my personal agenda in view of service of the work plan as determined on. So, do you ever have split votes?
Yeah. Well, no, not often, on the board of selectmen, but it could certainly happen.
Yeah, if you have a 4-3 vote and you're on the 3 side, is it okay to go back to your people and say, I didn't vote for that stinker? Sure it is. I'm just the insurance guy. You can tell your people whatever you want, right? But they know how you voted, it's on the record. So sometimes the personal conduct piece is in view of making the institution stronger. And accepting the fact that we probably all win some and lose some at certain points in time. But it'd be a stronger message if I said, well, I didn't vote for that one, and I fought like hell from my point of view, but you know what, we had a great discussion as a board, we had a lot of different viewpoints. The board decided to go a different direction, and I respect the decision reached by the board. That shows that we're a united governing body, no matter what the vote was, right? And then the risk issue that we see at first that comes up in the form of actual lawsuits is if somebody can't let the issue go and they want to attempt to relitigate that decision. Right, or worse yet, individually, they go around and try to undermine the decision. To give a real life example of that, I had a 4-3 vote on a very controversial development, and not picking on mayors here, just happened to be the mayor. But by the way, you can't do that because there's only one presiding judge in the state of Colorado, so the mayor, okay? And the mayor was on the 3 side of the vote, and he went to the building department after that vote, and he said to the building department, by the power vested in me as mayor, I'm directing you not to issue building permits for that development. Good idea? Yeah, when I was the city attorney for that, I was scrambling for the code to try and find, did I miss something, right? And it can be even more nuanced than that, like if you approve something with conditions, I've seen elected or appointed officials try to undermine the conditions or frustrate the realization of the conditions that we just put in the document. Right, or going around and giving staff members direction that's completely contrary to what the group as a whole just decided, right? Or like their appointments attempting to interfere with the exercise of discretion that by law is required to be exercised by the administrator, or the chief building official, or the law enforcement officer, or the town clerk, or the finance director, whatever it may be. Right, you have to, it's not that you're not entitled to ask question like, why did we make that decision? Why is the rule that way? Right, and that would be a view of it potentially from a policy perspective, having a discussion of should we have a different rule? Right, but interfering with the administration of the rules of the responsibility for administering the rules and given all the very dangerous response. Okay, last thing on this page is, do you agree with the notion like sometimes we all are information mongers. We just love information. Do you feel like sometimes you're under pressure as elected officials, maybe your appointed officials feel the same thing, that your constituents want to know tomorrow's news yesterday? What's the board gonna do about this? And you haven't even had a chance to have your own discussion. Sometimes the personal conduct piece requires us to have our antenna up and ask ourselves, fair or unfair, if I do this or do that, would it create perceptions that I'm trying to get ahead of the rest of the board? Or I'm purporting to speak for the board before the board has yet even spoken. And this can come up around hot topics. Someone says, oh, when's the board gonna do this? And say, I don't know, we haven't talked about it yet. And they say, oh, that's fine, what's your personal opinion? And you say, I'll bite. Here's my personal opinion. But please, this is just my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. So my person, and what do they filter? Board member, board member, board member, all the time, and they will immediately share whatever they learned from you as the position of the board. And that's not fair, but that's just the reality of what happens sometimes, right? Okay, next one. A few more things that we see, I just want to point out, I think, I don't know if I mentioned this handout, but there's a chapter, nice chapter that our, my boss, Tammy, I wrote in here about what's called the outsider or the outlier syndrome. And that's one of those areas where personal conduct can be destructive to the body itself, right? And if it's, only, you ask yourself, like, if we have one member on an appointed board who's doing things that are basically, you know, creating all sorts of problems, reputational damage, harm to the rest of the body, isn't that kind of an outlier situation where you have one person riding the dog, right? And it's a tough issue to get a hold of, but there's some tips and thoughts around how you deal with the outlier or the outsider syndrome situation in that book. Other things that we've seen, we go, why is this association? Because people ask me, is there some state law that addresses these problems? Or worse yet, they say, we're gonna go legal with some proceedings, so we need to give Cersei heads up because we're gonna go legal and attempt to remove someone from office because of these kinds of issues. That's why I kind of assembled all these personal conduct things into this slide. But accusations of lack of respect, undue partisanship, lack of good faith, proxy talk. I invented that phrase, so I'll tell you what it means. So you ever come to the policy or ever go to a meeting where there's a new policy debate on the agenda? But the discussion starts like this, it's the team, the management team put it on the agenda for the first time, and it's looking for policy direction from the policymakers. And somebody starts the discussion by saying, oh, you know, everybody I talk to says we need to do this, so let's do it this way. And then somebody else says, well, that's funny, everybody I talk to isn't saying that, right? Or maybe somebody says, I don't need why we need to do a policy, because it's always been our policy that we do this anyway, so that should just be our policy. And in my world, I call that proxy talk, because it's really an attempt by people to get their hand on the top of the bat before we've even started the game, you know, when you throw the first baseball bat, you know, right? So the great thing to recognize is that among a population of 1,400 people, only 7 of you are elected to speak with your own voice. And so hash it out, deliberate with many voices, but your own voices. Yes, you have your own constituency, your own people that you talk to, and you're gonna filter that voice, right? But the elected officials that contact me around that issue, it's like, it seems to us that it's like an attempt to not have an even playing field, right? Or if it's an attempt to have alphas, right, dominate the people who are not alphas, right? And so proxy talk can be very insidious, right, to good debate, deliberation, and policy making. So keep that one in mind as well. And then meetings ought not that surprise or gotcha moments, right? Remind that yourselves and for your appointed bodies too, it can feel informal for appointed bodies, but remind them they need to go through the process of setting agendas with staff and publishing agendas. They shouldn't have meetings that people show up individually and, hey, I've got something I'd like to add. It's not fair to the body because other people haven't had a chance to think of that. And it's got, of course, a risk dynamic because the state law says your agenda must include specific agenda information where possible. Okay, next slide. I think I'm done. There, I'll just leave the concluding thoughts there for you. The other handouts that I left with you are just more training resources around the use of email and electronic communications with elected officials, and some thoughts on that job of when you're making land use or licensing decisions, what that looks like with the process. So with that, thanks for the opportunity to present. I'm sorry we have the time to get. Happy to take questions, but I know you got another meeting coming up. So,
Right now it's at 6 o'clock. Does anybody have any comments or questions? On the ethics, the conduct? If 2 or more are gathered? Anything like that? Dennis, any comments or questions?
No, just thank you for that. That's
No,
very.
Yes, thank you very much. That was very informative and really, really helpful. And I love all these handouts that you left with us.
And
Thank you so much.
Master and speaking is on the code of conduct, but this provides the basis for what that code of conduct is intended to
Absolutely.
represent. And you have a number of examples that we try to give to you in your packet, and we've even developed a draft that has the Georgetown logo on top. That's that document. But what we're really looking for this evening is kind of some elimination and some favorites. So if there's a section of one of the handouts that you have in this packet that you really like, please bring it to our attention so that we can say, okay, this is something that the board wants to keep. If there's something that just is detestable to you that says, I don't like meeting on Tuesdays and this has to be on the code of conduct, then tell us about that too, so we can identify that as something that's just a non-starter, not to be included in this code of conduct.
Right, so in terms of Sirsa and the work session, thank you so much, Mr. White, for coming and speaking to us this evening. And again, thank you for the handouts. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And all your help here. It is 5:44, and I'm gonna call the work session adjourned.
Okay.
So we will adjourn again at 6, or we can go right into our session. What would people like to do?
We can't,
Briefly, let's say.
we have to wait. till
We have to
Yeah.
wait till 6, sorry.
They came into work and there were just, I bet you there were 8 emails all in a row. And Gerald just, you know, fun stuff, getting things done.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand how to reply to lawyers, you know, he told me, you gotta have a subject matter, I'm not gonna read it.
It's a good guy, subject
I
matter.
know, it was a good guy, they just didn't comply very often.
Well, you're fine, I mean, get to not comply, that's.
Yeah.
That's one of the priorities.
We're gonna, all right, it's 6 o'clock, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting of the Board of Selectmen on August 26th is called to order at 6 p.m. I will now do the roll call for this meeting. Mary Smith. Here. Rob Connell.
Here.
Amanda Cooper will be late. Alex Sassoon.
Here.
Dwayne Gazinski.
Here.
Rich Barrows.
Here.
Thank you. We have, you have been handed an agenda that has been placed before you. One was in your packet and there's a new one that you received this evening. And Jerry, did you want to make a comment on that?
Yes, I'd like to, approve the agenda, approve it with what you'll see on the revised version in front of you, it's on the second page. Just before adjournment, executive section, under, 246424 community. With the town administrator, myself, special counsel and staff to receive legal advice for negotiators concerning the Hubie and Gaskins. The county, those county litigation. So was that the only change?
There's an item that is going to be added under item 6 of the IGA. The sheriff's office sent us an IGA proposal for the packet at the end of last week. And over the weekend, they have modified that proposal and Jerry has been kind enough to quickly put that into a memorandum of understanding. You have that in front of you at your seat today, so that will be added as another document for consideration under item 6.
Any other additions or changes to the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as added to,
I'll make that motion.
sorry, was that Dwayne or Rich and Dwayne?
Rob.
Rob, sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda passes as added to. So for audience business, members of the audience have 3 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Letters will be acknowledged but will not be read aloud. Do we have any audience business this evening? Any letters to be read? Very good. Thank you. You have in your packet the payables for August 8 to August 29 to be approved. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or corrections to the payables?
I have a question.
Yes, Mary.
Page 2, under the Business Promotion Commission Fund. The Astro Tour, since that was canceled, are we still obligated to pay for that?
I don't have the answer to that, but we will investigate that for you.
So, or can we hold the check until we,
Yes.
okay?
Oh, here it is. Well, that was for July 4th
Or the 23rd, the 4th,
and the 23rd, because the 4th we did, yeah,
23rd was canceled.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions on the payables? Do I have a motion to approve the payables and also to hold the payment of elevated astronomy until we see about the cancellation of the August 23rd Astro Tours?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you, Rich and Alex. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, payables are approved. Next matter to be approved are the minutes from our August 12th meeting. I know there were some edits that were made on that. Does anyone else have any other edits or corrections for the minutes from August 12th? And Bridget, you've got those edits in there. Okay, very good. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August twelfth as edited?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, the minutes from August twelfth are approved. Our first action item is the Clear Creek Housing Authority Director. I don't see him here, David Porter. So should I just table this, to give him some time? Do we know that he's coming?
When I talked to him, he was gonna wait, because I hadn't had a chance to meet with him yet, either I got too busy.
So we should table this.
I think table it, yeah.
Okay,
You can always, if he shows up, you can always take it off the table and
okay.
slot it in.
Do I have a motion to table action item number 1?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any approved, any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll table that, and should he show up, or is he, do you think he would show up tonight? No.
I'd have to check and see, but I don't
Okay.
think, I don't think so.
All right, very good. We will table that. The second action item is consideration of the appointment of Nick Mandato to the Parks Commission. In your packet, you have the letter from Mr. Mandato. Any comments on this letter to approve Mr. Mandato for Parks?
He should be in Zoom too.
Is he on Zoom, Bridget?
If iPhone guest is Nick, please put a message in the chat.
Okay. So in your packet is a recommended motion. Does someone want to make that motion?
I move to appoint Mr. Nick Mandato to the Georgetown Parks Commission for a 3-year term expiring 2028.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. So Mr. Mandato is a happy member of the Parks Commission. For action item number 3, we have Ramsey Environmental Emergency O&M Services. Consideration of their proposal that is in your packet, along with comments, and then also a letter from Ramsey. Dennis, did you want to make any comments on that before I open this for comment and questions?
Just quickly, this is actually an emergency O&M contract. Emergency only because time is of the essence here. Since the town lost their Class B licensee as the ORC, the town has been on the clock within 30 days to have a new ORC. And so I went and approached Ramey Environmental to give us a proposal for taking over that. And then also added to their scope of work, roles and responsibilities that fall currently under the director's position within the town organization. They've provided that proposal, which is in your packet this evening. I would point you to the ORC scope of services on page 2. Under scope of services, that was drawn from the current job description for Mr. Zabel. And then also under the cost for services, I will point to the line item, the first line item provides scope of services. That is the price per month for the first 90 days. And then the second scope, the second line there for the scope of service will be the price per month that the town will have to pay after the first 90 days. The idea would be that once they get their operator on board and their management team comes in and is operating the plant, then they will be able to back off their time that they're spending here, and the operator will be able to back off their time spending with the current team. And so when we also compare that estimated cost to the town over that period of time to the budget and what we had anticipated, it's about 18% less than what we had allowed for having one FTE. And I can answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question or two, or a concern that I'd just like to address. From their letter. Third paragraph. One of the areas we make every effort is in communication. If we're having an issue with the system or have questions, we will immediately contact the town of Georgetown. Who are they contacting?
Me.
Okay, the answer I wanted to hear, thank you. under scope of services. H. The weekly staff meetings, that's our staff meetings, right? They're gonna either be on site or they're gonna zoom in with our people.
We haven't worked out the logistics of that. That was, their staff meeting would be for the utility staff meeting. So they would have weekly updates with that team over there at the water.
But our current utility staff.
Correct.
That, okay.
Yes.
And so then under the cost for ORC services on the last page, the third box. The additional maintenance service and
Mhm.
duties. Of those 5 roles listed there, which do we currently cover in-house, or are these all in addition?
These all would be in addition if we need them.
But we have a lead operator or we
Right.
have a plant operator, so which,
We would not, I do not foresee needing these unless we have any, let's say, for example, our lead operator is Eric. If Eric is on vacation for a week and we decide we need somebody to fill in for him, this would be the rate that we would request that person to fill in for Eric's absence.
Mike Murphy is also here now to answer questions.
Very good, thank you, Bridget.
is he from Rainy?
Yes,
Okay. But so I can understand the consulting and the management services and maybe some administration, but it's not as if we're consistently looking at filling these 5 roles on a regular basis.
no,
Okay. It's all that.
Any other questions? On Ramey, comments, concerns?
I think it would be good for Mike, if you could introduce yourself and just maybe spend a couple of minutes and talk about Ramey and what you foresee happening here in Georgetown.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Sorry, I was having a little trouble with the audio at first, but yeah, we are Ramey Environmental. So I would be registered as the ORC of your system. I hold all the licenses to do that. Well, then you would at that point have, to my left, you can't see him right now, is Dan Wolf, who is our Director of Operations. He'd be the direct manager for your site. But yeah, the intent is to come in and basically help kind of fill that void that you guys are missing right now with all the regulatory compliance, getting all the reporting done, and obviously also fill that role as the ORC. And as Dennis had talked about, what we want to do is also come in and learn your facility so then we can provide backup if you need it. That's where like you had some questions on the additional pricing. That's just to give you an idea of what the rate would be like if we get called for those services. You know, if one of your operators needs to take a vacation and we need to fill that kind of role. Ramey Environmental as a whole, you know, we have about 30 certified operators on staff. We have a team of 6 mechanics, and then we also have a full sewer jetback division as well too. So we're about 50 employees strong, operating close to 100 facilities throughout here in the state of Colorado. You know, this is what we do day in and day out. You know, we help people. You know, sometimes we get contracted to run the whole facility, but this is not an uncommon, well, the circumstances are uncommon, but it's not uncommon for us to come in and basically help, you know, a system that has great operators, but doesn't quite have that license level that they need, but also help them get to that level. So then someday you can take it back in-house as well too.
Thank you.
And I think this cannot go unsaid, but before we lost Ryan, he and I were working with Eric to educate him and get him to his level B so that he could take over at some point in the future. And this allows Ramey to help Eric get to his B level certification on the water side first. And that's why we were targeting for March. We think that's a good window for him to be able to do that. And then when he gets his B in the water, he can take the water side back. That will alleviate a little bit of this contract. And then he can focus on the sewer side and get that B. And then Ramey is done with their contract here and we are back to the way we want to operate our utility.
That's correct. And our contracts are very fluid like that. They, for the most part, can go 30 days at a time, you know, as we see fit or you see fit, and we need to adjust that scope as we're moving along. You know, we're more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, Mary? There's a motion in your packet regarding this plan. Does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. I move the Board of Selectmen accept the emergency operations and management proposal from Ramey Environmental and authorize Police Judge COVID to sign on behalf of the town of Georgetown.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate you being on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Murphy,
sorry
thank you very
we would have
much.
liked to be there in person, but we're at a conference this week, but thank you for having
No,
us.
that's okay. We appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Okay, so agenda item number 4 is going to be consideration of proposition 123 land banking application with Centennial Opportunity Fund. We have Kurt Sokup here. And so, Dennis, I didn't know if you wanted to start or how you wanted to.
This is a
proceed.
complicated thing, and I'm gonna leave it to the legal minds to describe.
Okay.
Well, let
Very
me
good.
introduce, Max Stitch, who is, Craig Sokup's, attorney. Max is in the middle there. Max, have you been in front of the board before, just by Zoom?
I have not been in front of the board, I've not been
All right.
via Zoom, so it's
Okay.
nice to meet all of you.
Would you mind spelling your last name?
Sure. STICH.
Very good. Thank you.
Of course, I've worked with Mr. Dahl on this matter and some other matters outside of First.
Very good. Sorry, Jerry.
Yep, no
Please
problem. Max and I have been working on a series of things involving Bighorn. One of them is the countywide water augmentation lease. Not that it matters for tonight, but to just give you the context, you know, the number of things that Bighorn does or does that affect the town and the agreements that we have with them. And it's been very helpful to move that water augmentation lease payment obligation to individual users along, and we have some graphs, and pretty soon you'll see that in front of you. Pardon me, but the set of documents you have here all relate to the opportunity for a forgivable loan under Proposition 123 at the state level for affordable housing. I know Max and Kurt are fully capable of explaining them, but I've gone through the materials with them and they are appropriate. You'll notice the cover sheet that we put together just to give you a little introduction. You should absolute the basic elements, which is this applications for loan funding. The town acquires the loan as the entity applying for the loan. It then spends the money to purchase the property. It would be the Lakeview Flats Phase 2 from Kurt, who then immediately ground leases it, long-term leases it back to the town, builds the project. And once he's ground leased that back, there are conditions on the loan that get pretty immediately satisfied. And I'll let Max and company describe that, such that the loan is forgiven. And we're left with the town as an owner of the property, but leased back to the developer under the condition that the units on the property are designed and built and restricted for affordable housing. That's a real 50,000 foot, description, but at least it gives you sort of get your arms around the elephant, and I would let Max and Kurt describe the details.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll just sort of give a general, just overview. Reason we're here and talking about Proposition 123 is that, the income levels of Clear Creek County are not very large to be able to support, mortgages, mortgage loan for their homes. By having Proposition 123, we are able to pay for the land. By getting approval from Proposition 123, it allows us then to go and immediately get an $85,000 contribution per unit for the homeowner, so that they immediately will have not only a reduction of their land costs, but it'll also be another $85,000 reduction in the cost of the home. And Tanner can sort of explain this. So the effort is to try to get it to a price level that will be affordable for locals, for this county. And at this point, even with ECLT, we're having a very difficult time finding loan packages and packages that will allow people to buy their own home in this area. We've actually been, I'm right now that even putting an assessment for each unit of contribution, of $70-some thousand, and I'm still having a difficult time getting people to be able to get qualified. And I've got the rate down to 4% and still having a difficult time getting people qualified. So I think the priority for me is to find the right avenues, and using the state is one way of getting these to be affordable for local people. And I guess you can maybe just give general.
Yeah, I think to give an update, from the last time we all came together, which was to approve the letter of intent to apply for these funds.
Would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Tanner Crawley,
Great, thank you,
Housing
Tanner.
Partners, or Affordable Housing
Thank
Consultancy.
you.
Last time we all got together was to approve the letter of intent to apply for these funds. Chapter has reviewed that letter of intent, said this project would be suitable for this land banking fund, for a grant of, for an award of the forgivable loan. And the next step in the process is to submit the full application, which is a really exciting milestone. At this point now, if we meet the conditions of the full application, they do have funding set aside specifically for this project, which is really worth celebrating, because these are competitive funding sources and they do think this project is worthy of being funded. So the ask before you today is to enter into this purchase agreement ground lease structure as a condition of the application. So the full application, which is due September 1st, requires an updated appraisal, an updated environmental study, which Kurt has already commissioned, and then evidence of site control, which is purchase contract and ground lease structure. With evidence, we then submit all of those documents to CHAP as part of their full application. They review it for 2 weeks, and then they give us an award letter. At that point, we then start the due diligence process with CHAP. They provide us their draft loan agreements and some of those other pieces, the use restriction that requires that the property can only be developed as affordable housing. Some of those things come a little later, but the next step in the process is to enter into this this purchase contract. And per Kurt's point, one of the things that's really great about land banking is it's kind of the first domino to fall in getting the remainder of the affordable housing subsidies. So this land banking program will remove the land costs, which is great. Those cost savings can be passed on to the buyers. It also positions the project really well to go apply for an $84,000 per unit grant and potentially low cost mortgage products or low cost construction loan. The more of those things we come together, the lower can be the sales price and the more affordable we get the units. But this land banking fund and the forgivable loan is really the first funds in.
Could you clarify that timescale of the dates? You said September 1st?
September 1st is when the full application is due, which we can prepare on our end. We have everything ready except for this executed purchase contract. And that's just the next step in the application process. Then Chapel will review it for likely 2 weeks, although it's a rolling application schedule, so there's a little bit of uncertainty. But once they give an award letter, then we can start the due diligence process where they'll give loan documents. We'll come back and negotiate those together. And what you'll find in the purchase contract is it really gives you, the town, a lot of flexibility to terminate the agreement if anything in the next few steps is not agreeable. So what we're acknowledging is that this program has a little bit of a chicken and the egg challenge, is that we have to enter into a collaborative purchase contract to take the next step, but we still need to get the loan agreements, go through those together, come to an agreement, do some other things. So this current purchase contract will establish site control so we can do the full application, but it will give you the right to terminate for any reason or no reason whatsoever for enough time so that we can continue to work through this together in good faith.
So if I understood correctly, one of the documents that you required was an environmental study.
Correct.
It's already been completed,
It has already been
Yes, it
completed.
has.
Thank you.
and it's already been submitted to the state.
Okay.
Maybe just explain also how quickly we're sort of structured right now to have a total forgiveness of a loan.
Yeah, so the loan is structured as a forgivable loan. That loan forgiveness is conditioned on closing financing for an affordable housing project. This project is unique in that it's already done a lot of the entitlement work. It will be financeable with just the land banking funds, and we can quickly meet that condition of loan forgiveness by starting construction on the housing units. Simultaneously, we'll pursue those other subsidies, but it really is the position where that liability is not contingent on, designing the site and going through the entitlements, getting all the other things done. we think we can meet those milestones and the conditions for loan forgiveness, very quickly.
And I'd just like to clarify, the lease would be for 99 years, is that correct?
Well, no, so I'll explain this. So I'll explain the structure of the transaction. So what we've attempted to do is come up with a transaction structure that has no cost and no risk to the town. So we have a purchase and sale contract, which Tanner described and which Mr. Dahl described, that is set up so that there's no earnest money deposit, no security deposit. And it's basically the contingencies for the town to buy the land from Centennial Opportunity Fund or approval of the CHAPA funds in the amount of $2.5 million. As Tanner said, we don't have that loan document yet. We don't even have the covenants yet. We have to submit the application with the signed purchase and sale contract to get those documents. But once we get those documents, we'll all review them. And then assuming that they're all appropriate and we want to go through with this, then we will go through with the closing. And the closing will happen as simply as once the CHAPA funds come in, they'll go directly to Centennial Opportunity Fund and you'll get a deed for specific lots. I think it's lots 7, 8, and 9, but I could be wrong. I got it written. 6, 8, and 9. But you get these various lots. At the exact same time, we enter into a ground lease. And the reason we enter into the ground lease is so that all operational costs, all operational liability is taken away from the town. When you own property, you have liability. So we take a ground lease back so that Centennial Opportunity Fund has to pay all maintenance costs, all taxes, all insurance, everything. It is required under this ground lease to do everything on this property. However, it can't build on the property yet. So it couldn't go and I mean, you'd have to get building permits from the town anyway, but it wouldn't even be permitted to do that. It basically just holds the land there. But the ground lease gives it the opportunity to continue its pre-development work. So continue to work with its lenders to get financing. And as I understand it, there's a lender already in play that is willing to give financing.
We've already executed financing.
Yeah, we've already executed it. So the way that the CHAPA land grant would work is the money comes in and then it's forgiven when 2 steps are met. And the first step is that you're allowed to develop the property, which I believe the town has already approved the development for these lots. And 2, you have construction financing and a building permit. So we actually think that we could probably turn around after the initial closing and then have the loan forgiven a month, 2 months after the fact. I mean, banks can be slow, I suppose, so it may be a little longer.
But then they have anything to do with it.
Well, I mean, to approve a loan specifically for this, yeah, correct. So the way I structured it was not a 99-year ground lease, it was a 10-year ground lease. The hope is that we don't even get past year 1 in the ground lease. So that's the way it's structured. We should be able to hit these milestones immediately. And then the way I've written the ground lease, which I think is a safety net for the city, is that it has automatic repurchase obligations for Centennial. So once the loan is forgiven, Centennial has to repurchase the property automatically from the town. It's like for $1. If Centennial is unable to get this financing within 10 years, it automatically has to pay the town $2.5 million. But if it can't, let's just say it can't do that, that's fine. Then the town can then go to a nonprofit, have the nonprofit take the project over, and then the loan is forgiven. So the town really has no liability whatsoever. We're attempting to shorten it and have it so that it has no liability. And the reason that the timing is so important is this September 1st date, where we have to have the application and the purchase agreement signed, is that these loans are competitive and they can be oversubscribed. And while we're sitting here and we're very confident that we'll get these funds, we still have to fill out an application and we still have to apply for them. And if we don't do it in a timely manner, CHAPA could give those funds to another applicant or another party. So getting this in on the 1st is the most, for us, the most critical piece. We have the purchase agreement. Again, it lets you out if there's a problem. And then the property, if it does go through, and then really it's a win-win, and that the town gets additional affordable housing in the town. There will be chapter restrictions on this property. It's not that Centennial Tree Fund or any successor could do whatever they wanted with this property. It will have a restricted covenant on it just for affordable housing. The town gets that, and then the developer, as Kurt said, it does receive some contributions that make developing and constructing and building affordable housing possible, because construction costs are high. We all know interest rates are high. Everything it's we're in a difficult environment to do affordable housing. This makes it easier for the developer to do that. So does anyone have?
I think it's the only way to allow people in this area to be able to purchase a home.
Mhm.
Who is charged with, doing this, paperwork? You know, getting the paperwork.
The application, you mean?
And is it specifically the 1st of September, door opens and closes 5 minutes later, or?
So I believe all the paperwork is actually being completed.
Okay.
And, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I got.
Yeah, the application is completed. The only item on their checklist that we have to upload that is outstanding is an executed purchase contract, which is what is before you today. So we will handle the application, all of the administrative burden of applying, including when, if we are conditionally selected, helping negotiate the loan documents with them. I mean, helping manage the due diligence closing process, and as Max articulated, the intent of these documents and how they're structured is really to not put any administrative burden or as little administrative burden on you, the town, as possible, as little cost as possible, and as little.
Well, no costs.
That's true.
So is the purchase contract, Jerry? I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's not in the packet,
No.
so we need to get clear on something. What's in the packet is all materials with respect to the application. So what's not in the board's packet is a form of the purchase contract or the lease back.
Okay, should have been. I know we provided.
Yeah.
What needed to be done? I thought it was that 2-page.
No, there's a purchase contract.
Yeah, which, and
I
let's dig it out just now. We need to sort of figure out the logistics here for a minute,
Okay,
just for a minute.
no, that's fine.
Uh,
I have copies of them, Jerry.
right. And I've reviewed them.
Yeah.
And they're consistent with what's being represented here, but they're not in your packet. And my understanding was that tonight we were approving the application, the loan application. Now, the way I've set up the motion in the packet, certainly the board has the power, it says approve the loan application and any necessary documents in connection therewith, which can easily be in. I'm told are the purchase agreement and the lease back.
Well, the lease back would be signed when we close, so the lease back we wouldn't sign yet, because we wouldn't have property to lease for you until we close. So it would just be the purchase to sale.
Yeah, which the board doesn't have, because they don't, because we do not understand that was
Part of the application.
part of the application for tonight. So we can do a couple of things, and I'll shut up and you guys can decide what you want to do. One is that we have that purchase contract, copied and handed out, and we take a little recess, do that. And dive into it so that the board has actually seen it and can understand it. I've seen it, it's as, shorter purchase contracts as you can get, because normally when you're purchasing something, there's a lot more conditions, but that's not the case here. So that's what we can do to get the board fully informed, and then the motion as written is probably good enough, although I probably brought that to include specific reference to the purchase contract, and then we're good. Door two, I suppose, which isn't as preferable, is we just have the purchase contract described, and we don't route it around. That goes a little faster, but I understand the board will want to know what it says. Door three is we somehow figure out how to do some kind of a special meeting before September the 1st, which we could do by Zoom, but it's not my favored door.
September 1st is Labor Day, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
that this isn't due by September 1st, it's probably due September 2nd.
Well, probably the sooner you can get it, the better. at this point? Is that what they're looking for?
No, not necessarily, so they've taken the funding for this project, they've set it aside, and said we're not going to allocate this to any other party. That set aside is good through September first, so as long as we receive an application by September first. Then those funds are set aside, so long as the application is satisfactory, we will award your project the $2.5 million forgivable loan. The deadline is September first, unfortunately, it has to do with their statutory timelines. Which is very strange because of this thing.
So can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask for the purchase review, for the contract review, if we did it right now? Are we talking 15 minutes of time to bring this board up to speed? Because we haven't seen it, we don't know about it, we understand there's a pressure for September 1. You know, we've got a couple other things going on this week, so I'm just going to explore two things. One is, what is the time frame if we did it tonight? Second is, do we want to do a special meeting, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week? So I leave, that decision will be yours, but I just wanted to get an idea of, if we did it right now, what are we talking about?
It's not very lengthy, honestly, because of the very nature of this deal. So I think it's capable of being copied and shared around, and we can have Max go through it paragraph by paragraph. Again, it's not that lengthy. It matches up with how it's been described for you.
And I think it's sort of critical for those comments of that you can terminate at any time.
Right, and let me sort of finish my thoughts, which was, you know, after we've done that, maybe the best course is, after we've done that, the board will have a sense of whether, oh yeah, we're good with this. Let's rock on and take action. Or the board, having been informed, can say, looking pretty good, but have not had enough time to absorb and then move into discussion of timing in a special meeting. So you may not need it if you take a look at it. You're gonna have to look at it sooner or later. We're here. We could do other work while that thing is being copied up and being made ready for us.
Right, so let's start with Mary. Would you rather, we're gonna straw poll this to see where everybody stands. Do you wanna do it now, or shall we wait?
I would rather be able to see the document and read through it and process it and have some questions. And then have the opportunity to answer from the document that we don't have in front of us. I have a few questions about the documents that we do have in front of us that can be addressed. This is such a repeat of what happened to us just within the last 6 weeks or so when this happened. All the
Appreciate that.
documentation was not presented to us and
Right.
we're being forced to make
Thank
a
you.
response.
Rich, would you rather see it now and then see where we're at the end of that?
I'd like to see the lots, and I'd like to see a map of which property
Okay.
that's involved. And
I'm
then I
assuming
just
that's
have
in
a
the
few other
PSA.
questions. I'm not sure if that's part of that.
Is there a map of the
Document
lots in the PSA?
I believe there is, we just legally describe them.
So are we saying special meeting? Yeah, okay, Rich, special meeting.
I think it's special meeting.
Okay, so here's my suggestion then, and we can vote on this as a board. Obviously, I can't vote, but I'm thinking we need the handout, we need the map. And then we will have a chance, the board will have a chance to review, and then we can special meeting this week and then get back. I think we need to do it that way, so this board feels comfortable, but this is that how everyone is feeling? Do I hear, how do we do this? I mean, we have a motion before us, but obviously,
Right, well, what you do is you do similar to what you did with that earlier item, which is to a table. That, or to continue that agenda item to a special meeting to be set on X date, time and place. Then we've done a bunch of special meeting notices. I've got those in the machine. Letting Jen those out. So it might be helpful to have the date of the special meeting so that we can plug that in the motion. You might have a conversation now about today's Tuesday. So it'll need to be tomorrow, the next day, or the next day.
well, if we did it tomorrow, we need 24-hour notice for
We do, that is true.
publication, so we would have
It
to
would have
do
to,
it.
it's either be later in the evening. Because again, I'm gonna have to do this special meeting notice, we're gonna have to get posted. And you've got other things to do, so tomorrow, I think, is not in the cards.
What does Thursday look like for everybody?
I'm not available Thursday. I can
Thursday, you're open?
Friday, I guess.
Mary, were you open Thursday? Me neither.
Well. No,
If we did Friday, could we do 10 a.m. Friday morning?
Maybe by Zoom. I don't know if I'll be in town. I don't know what time I'm leaving.
Well, you could, I mean, you always have your meetings available as hybrids. So whether you're physically here or not, the real question is, do you have time on Friday? And so when,
I can do Friday.
Can you do it earlier maybe?
Yeah, what time do you wanna meet?
You can't do earlier?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can do it
Yeah,
any
we
time
can
you
do
want
it.
on Friday. What works for you?
We're not talking 6 AM, are we?
No,
No,
but like 8 would be perfect.
we can do 8 a.m.
Yep. Like Rumble.
Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
Can you zoom in?
I don't know what I'd be able to.
So what time would you be available?
10, I think I can do.
Can you do 10?
But
God,
gosh,
should
that
be
doesn't,
close. Yeah, I don't know where I'll be at on.
how about 9?
Just plan on for 10. And I'll figure it out. I'll make a stop on one of the passes, try to hold the phone up for connection.
Are you gonna be like running
you
100
racing?
miles and
Are
then
you
you have to
racing?
stop?
Yeah, going to Crescent View
Oh.
first.
All right, so 10 a.m., August 29, Friday, that's what we're saying works. So what we're gonna do then
What about
is,
later in the day? How long is your race?
Well, the race is not till Saturday. I'll make it work at 10, because I can live after that, I still be for track.
Okay, I mean, we're
I
not,
can always stop in some.
we're not affecting your PR if we need you stop
No,
at the top of the
not,
mountain. Okay.
not on this one.
Okay.
I'll be
okay,
He's gonna
so,
do his PRs that he.
Don't give up.
so as a matter
To
of,
get back to the subject.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should, which we should. Before you take a motion, let's just.
Yeah.
Sure, we're not, that they move swiftly. I'm thinking that what, you can probably do it as a single motion, but I think I'd rather have two, one motion to continue the matter to a special meeting date, time and place. And then a second motion to direct that the town administrator to issue a notice of meeting, a notice of special meeting for that date, time and place. So you can do both of those, but before we get into motion territory, I assume, let's just make sure we've got the right
right,
people that'll be able to address this. They're here now. And is there anything that, will this same team be available at 10 a.m. Friday, or to anticipate that? Are there some things you'd like to present here in person that will, I realize they don't have the contract, but nevertheless, you would be making presentations on it, or kind of have you. It's kind of the opportunity, because we're in person, and I'm not trying to say anything other than taking advantage of the ability for some Q and A, if there is any,
on Friday.
now. Well, now, while we have them.
Well, we don't have the PSA, so I don't know that anybody's comfortable right now. Everybody can chime in
I've got a couple questions just on the.
on the
letter.
application, so let's get to that.
Yeah, I would like to do as much as we can.
Of course.
as a person, is the-
Which I understand, so we can tackle the question of the application, we can get copies of the PSA with the map for a meeting on Friday morning, the 29th at 10 a.m.
Yeah, well, and so the PSA doesn't have a map in it that I've got. What I think I should do is tomorrow morning, I will email Dennis and Jerry a copy of the PSA with the map, and I will get it in complete final form. Jerry, who would sign the PSA for the city?
The police judge.
Okay.
So would a PSA not have an exhibit A that was a map?
That's good. No, it has one, but the copy that I have is not, it's just.
I understand it's a legal description, yeah, okay.
So what, I know what you want, is you want me to
Okay.
get like a survey out and
Sure.
say lots, 8, 9, 10, right?
Yeah, I wanna be able to see it. It's gonna be right across from my house.
Well, there you go.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'll put that together and then I'll email that to you and I'll try to get this into signable format so that if it's approved on Friday, it can just be signed right then and there.
Nothing's changing from what was approved by the DRC.
Right,
And that is where lot 8 and 9 are. And at 6, it's a strip along the whole Argentine Street. Which will allow for a lot more parking accessibilities and different things.
And so there's still like 2 lots available. over
There will
there?
be no lots available, the rest of the lots will be donated to the city if you all approve it.
I see.
outside of lot 6, 8, and 9.
Yes, 6, 8, and 9 are the only lots involved in this. Proposition 128, 123.
And how many units?
Some kind of numbers. So I want to make sure too, if there's any way we could have the PSA by tomorrow, so everyone will have a chance to read
Yeah,
it.
my goal is to get it to the two groups first thing tomorrow.
That's great. And then,
With the copy of the plat marked out
okay,
with the lots.
And then I'll do an email, either I or Dennis will send an email to the whole board.
that's
I'm
excellent.
good at sending those, as you know, you get them all the time
Of course.
with the attachment, and you can have them tomorrow, so that way you'll have it starting tomorrow until Friday to review.
So prior to continuing this, there were questions on the application form that we did have in our packet.
Yeah.
So Mary, I know you had some questions on that application form. That's already been filled out, right, Tanner? That's the part what we have. Okay, so why don't we just deal with that right now and we'll move on?
You want me to go?
Yeah,
So, because we know that this project has the opportunity to be escalated because there have been final or other approvals that have taken place. On page 2 of your letter, this letter. Where you, at the top, where you spell out within 5 years, the site is zoned and a development plan approved, and then within 10 years, building permits are secured and the construction loan is closed. How can we tighten up that time frame?
So those timeframes are CHAPA's maximum timeframes. So the loan from CHAPA to the town will have those timeframes. So it gives us the longest possible lead time, which we want for the sake of the CHAPA loan agreement, because it gives us the widest berth to make sure we meet the conditions of their loan forgiveness. The risk is as small as possible for the town. So those are the milestones that we're specifically referencing, not necessarily the milestones for the actual partnership between the town and the development to proceed quicker. Those are the timelines imposed by Chapel, which are intentionally long term, so that it's not a risky proposition.
So how can we tighten up those timelines, Jerry? Because we have been working on this project since 2017.
Well, you can push back and say we'd like them to be shorter. And, you can embed, I suppose, shorter timelines into the PSA or to some, separate kind of memorandum of understanding on what the timing of the construction of the project will be. But that's something that the town has to arm wrestle them with.
Well, and again, because within 5 years, we've already zoned the site and a development plan has already been approved. So we've already fast forward 5 years.
Yeah.
So item number 2 could be within 5 years, building permits are secured and a construction loan is closed.
is that right, Tanner? Can we do that in a CHAPA document?
I think that should be a
Or a
document
PSA?
between myself, COF, and the town.
Correct, yeah, I would leave Chapel's documents
Okay,
as
yeah.
soft as possible, but you could separately have a
But
different.
we can put that in the PSA, Jerry, if you'd like. I mean, again, I think we've already hit the nail on the head. The first
fine.
milestone's already been met.
Yep.
It's really the
Exactly, and that's, I
second-
think, what the point is being
So-
made, is right.
So Jerry, if you want to, in the, it hasn't been approved yet, so the PSA that I send you tomorrow, in the chapter contingency section, I will add a section that says, instead of the 10 years for the building permit and the construction financing, it's, I think you suggested 5 years.
Well, so
Five
your
or-
your item number 2 says within 10 years, building permits are secured and a construction loan is closed. We've already done item 1, number 1.
Those are
So
chapters.
check marker. I understand that, so if we can write that into the agreement between the town and you outside of this one. I think from the town standpoint and the community standpoint, we might see a close in this project in our lifetime.
Do you have a comfort zone on when you will have this all constructed and?
Well, I'm hoping to start as soon as possible. I've already signed a contract for the buildings, for the modular construction. So I've put already $250,000 deposit to buy the building, so, will it get done? I think it will. I think that, so I mean, I have no problem. If she wants 5 years, it's 5 years.
Oh, can I have 3?
You can have 3 years.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, I mean,
Not to finish, but to get things started, it's fine.
we've had so many conversations about moving this fast because you are trying to fast track all this stuff. that maybe it is a good perception issue for us to put 3 years into this, because we know you're gonna hit that easy.
That's it. It would be definitely for starting. No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
100%, I think that gives you confidence. This is gonna get done. Like I said, I already put $250,000 deposit. That's out of my pocket to buy these units. The units are gonna get started construction immediately as soon as I get the green light that, you know, everything is set. But I've already put a significant amount of money involved in civil work. Deposit on a lot of buildings. These buildings, I would hope we will start the foundations this fall and have these boxes show up in the winter, and we're gonna stack them. We've already been approved that we can get them stacked in the winter. And so the first 2 buildings will be going up.
So Jerry, I'll put in,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
Maybe we shouldn't call them boxes.
Yeah,
Let's call
probably,
them buildings.
that's probably a good idea, probably a good idea. These magnificent homes.
So I appreciate your escalating that time frame for a document. The other thing I'm really concerned about, and I know we can play this, you know, pushing things around here, but I would really like to see if the town is in any way, shape or form purchasing this land, getting the money to purchase this land from you to give back, that those parcels are cleaned up. Because again, this project has been going on since 2017. We've been looking at a lot of construction debris. It gets moved over here, and it gets moved over here. I don't wanna be stuck with stuff on our property. And we've asked you that before, so I'm just throwing it out.
No, you asked me about the berm, the concrete clearly needs to be cleared out, we have to clear that out to be able to build a foundation, so that will get moved. Some of these boxes that are there, those are what. When we get delivered.
Oh, I know, you
those
have
to
to-
be
yeah.
clear.
And you don't wanna
And then-
pay firm again, I
And
get
then
that part. I'm not talking about-
thirdly, we are going to start excavating for the parks, this fall. And so this has to be cleaned up, because we're going to be starting the excavating so that we have the parks all lined up. So, it's sort of. I'll say it because you guys forced me, but we have to do it, and we have to get this done, and we have to get the property cleaned up and site ready.
So are all the property taxes currently paid on these parcels? 689,
I would imagine they have, I haven't looked.
okay, I'd like to make sure that there's no past due property taxes on that to the county and to us and to everyone else.
well, I'll make it a contingency at closing and all
Yeah,
of the
that's not-
property taxes are paid.
That's fine.
Yeah, for-
Yeah, we'll want some form of pilot
Yeah.
review, so that we know there aren't encumbrances.
They've already have done that, I do have to sign a document, but there will be nothing on these properties, there's no lien on any of it.
Yeah, but Jerry, I've got it, we get a title commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we're
pay for the
definitely-
title policy, that usually, it's the other way around, but we'll pay for the title policy for this, for the city. When we have we have a title commitment already.
Yeah, like any other acquisition,
Yeah.
I'll wanna see the commitment and I'll read the B2.
Yeah.
List of exceptions and,
Absolutely.
accept or reject based upon what they say.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard.
And on the buyback terms, under the second bullet, if construction financing was not secured, and I know this will be changed, because it won't say with intent, well, this is the chapter document. And the property for 2.5 million guaranteeing a favorable outcome for the town that it's repurchased. Is there? Is there an inflation clause to that? Because however many years, I mean, we all know property has gone up. We know that you purchased this property initially for far less than this. So what happens when time goes on and this doesn't? And I know you're gonna assure me that it's all gonna be developed, I'm gonna take your word for it, but. What's in it for us?
So the deed restriction at the closing of the land transfer will impose the income and sales price restrictions. So it'll make it so that the land cannot be developed for affordable housing. And if, the reason that clause is in there is really to protect against the downside, which, I think is very minimal, but if for whatever reason, this thing couldn't happen in 10 years, we had a catastrophic meltdown in the interest rates or something. That clause is really intended to solve the worst case scenario, which is 10 years comes and goes, the loan becomes due, and now Kurt must repurchase it, and that way there's no liability to the town. If that were to happen, it would actually be a negative outcome for Kurt, because then he has to pay what would be fair market value for the land. And to your point, there's, you know, a long time of value growth there, but the income restrictions are in place. So even if you were to repurchase it for that price, the income restriction would still apply, and those units would lose a lot of market rate value. And the way the forgivable loan will be structured, since you're a governmental entity, is actually going to be as a recoverable grant. So the 2.5 million will not be accruing any kind of balance or return. It'll be $2.5 million at the point of closing, and then if it must be repaid at year 10, it will be a $2.5 million liability.
But we're paying fair market value now.
Correct.
And then it goes, the deed restriction occurs at closing.
At closing. Yeah, but before closing the construction financing, the minute Kurt sells this land, anything that's developed there must be subject to the.
But I'm assuming if, say, 3 out of the 5 buildings, or 5 buildings,
There's 5 buildings, yes,
and they're all targeted for affordable housing.
2 will not be.
Okay, so out of so if those 2 aren't built, or whatever percentage of affordable housing units are not built, why can't that property be fair market value if this project doesn't fulfill this?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So the intent of the program is to remove the land cost to help facilitate the affordability. There's not really a scenario where the land gets developed without being affordable housing. If it were, and I don't know how this would happen because the deed restriction will be in place, but to your point, if that were to happen, then it wouldn't make sense for her to be able to repurchase the land for 2.5 million. But the deed restriction that Chapter imposes is at least 30 years of affordability, and the homeownership model is almost always affordability in perpetuity anyways, because there's no.
Is the deed restriction on all the lots?
The
all
deed
three?
restrictions on the whole site, the deed
Right.
restriction will read that 70% of the units must be affordable to households that.
On all 3 lots?
Yes, on all the lots,
Okay,
100% AMI or less.
right.
The key being that the restriction extends to the entire parcel and it isn't broken up affordable and
Right.
market, so that the market can then. The key
Affect
being
part
the
of
deed
it.
restriction binds the entire parcel.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I mean, that's what you're saying, Mary, but it doesn't really, it can't work like that. Like, you can't build 7% affordable and then come back later and take the other 30% and make it market value. It doesn't really work like that.
Right.
I don't quite understand.
If
how
it's
that
all,
makes
if it's
sense.
all built, life is good. I'm
Right.
playing devil's advocate here.
But that deed restriction affects the whole property, whether the buildings are built or not,
Regardless, yes.
right? If I'm
Yeah, and to
understanding.
your point, if it's not built, her must repay the loan and the deed restriction stays in place.
Right,
And that's not a great outcome for Kurt, but it's no good to the affordability. Like, it will still make sure nothing can be developed there that isn't affordable housing. That'll be
That's 70%.
70% of this, correct?
And it's for individuals to purchase. It can't be, someone can't say, hey, I'm gonna buy those 3 buildings and turn them into rentals.
Yeah, so we'll make sure, one of the next steps that we can't get to until we have full application is Chapel will provide the draft. Recoverable grant agreement and the deed restriction. What they've done in the past in the deed restriction is leave it very flexible for projects that might be earlier on that want the flexibility, where it would say something along the lines of, if this is rental housing, it'll be 60% AMI or less. If it's home ownership, it'll be 100% AMI or less. Chapel might have that level of flexibility, but you could always impose, that it must be home ownership, right? I think we are aligned with that, so we wouldn't mind.
but even if it's rental, it's affordable, it has to be
It
affordable.
has to be affordable, no matter what happens, 70% of the units must be affordable.
And so how do they, again, without having our own ordinance in front of us, sorry. How do our code was written with a different percentage?
Mhm.
And so is that addressed in this other document, that we're meeting what we imposed on ourselves for affordable housing, the percentage,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
because
compare-
this is less than that.
Correct. I'm gonna have to compare our code against
Okay,
this. I'm not.
so just between now and
But I
Friday.
thought I
some
thought
of this
our
can be
code
covered.
was attached to the deed and that our code would prevail, correct?
Yeah, both and, so
Right.
for example, I'm working on a project in Denver, Denver has an inclusionary housing policy, 10% of units must be affordable at 60% AMI or less.
Mm-hmm.
Unit to do for sale. That applies even if you go get land banking, so then you're subject to both covenants, you must meet the local restriction. And then you must meet the state restriction, so both covenants.
Okay, right, so our code prevails, right.
Just wanna make sure
Any other application questions at this moment? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to continue.
Yeah, can I suggest?
Yes, please do.
Some motions that we ended up with 10 AM on Friday, the 29th.
Nine.
Okay, so, the first motion would be to, continue the, agenda item number 4, to a special meeting to take place at 10 o'clock AM on Friday, August 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Rich, I'll take, Dwayne, was that you or Rob?
No, it's Rich and.
Alex. Rich and Alex, okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, and a second motion would be to, like charter reference to, to, direct the, town administrator, and town, attorney to, create and, post notice of a special meeting of the board of selectmen to take place on, at 10 o'clock AM on Friday, August 29th.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. Do we need to specify what the special notice meeting or special meeting is about?
Yes, well, the prior motion sort of did that, but I think
Okay,
that's probably fair, maybe, I'm kind of doing this on the fly here. And,
just for clarification for the record, that the
Yeah.
special meeting is for the consideration of the application and purchase and sale agreement for Lakeview Flats.
yeah, can we go ahead and have the maker of the motion and the second agree that that's the motion, and then we can vote on it again? Maker of the motion,
Maker of the motion, so that's gonna be Rich and Alex.
or challenge.
Agreed.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have votes going on. Okay, very good. And yeah, please be sure if there's any other documentation that we need that back up to our town administrator, so we can be sure to have everything in front of this board for their consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and your
I
patience.
really appreciate all your comments.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it.
Sorry,
I
no.
appreciate you making this.
Thank you very
I
much.
just have one question. I
Uh-oh.
wanna make absolutely certain that you are able, I'm to get the application in on presumably Friday after we're done.
Yeah, right, I think one thing that might be.
Assuming that we're going through.
Yeah, it might be worth thinking about is if any of the meeting or discussion on Friday results in any prudent revisions that,
Sure, we'll be available to make that happen.
those, but yes, but for this document, everything is ready to submit.
Very good.
Good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks
We
for
appreciate your time.
on Friday.
Thank you very much.
I
We'll see you,
appreciate you all the time.
we'll see you Friday.
I'm very kind.
You just like throw back.
We'll go with that.
Actually, if you like, you can zoom in on Friday. If you would like.
Okay,
It's up to you.
I may come up here.
I
and
think it would
may
be
bring my
great if you were
laptop.
here.
So if there are.
Yeah.
prudent edits.
That's a great idea. I vote for that.
That means I got it.
I'll second. Oh, that means, oh, sorry, Chair.
That's a good idea.
I'll go there.
Thank you very much.
So Friday morning.
Linda, good to see you.
Bye, sorry, everybody.
No problem. We're glad you're here. So we are on agenda item number 5,
Thank you.
which is a consideration of a resolution of support for a tourism marketing grant. You have this in your packet. And Dennis, I'll let you make a couple comments on this before we open it for questions.
Sure, the request came from the Tourism Bureau to join in this project. And it has been a project that has been on the radar of the BPC. And if you read through the proposal, the entities that are being asked to join are in addition to the town of Georgetown, but Idaho Springs, Empire, and Silver Plume. And you'll see on page, on the number, right, page 3 has the breakdown of the match request, and the town of Georgetown is being asked to contribute $5,000 towards this grant application for a project called the Tourism Marketing Grant. It is under the project summary linking trails to town, heritage tourism, and outdoor recreation pocket guide. The resolution of support will serve as the town's signal that they want to be involved in this project. And I can try to answer as many questions as you might have this evening.
Any questions?
Food.
Yes.
You're short. So we're being asked for $5,000. And. But it appears that this match is half of that budget for 25, 26, and 27, so over the course of the next 3 years, it's a $15,000. Contribution from Georgetown.
That's what I understand, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to more clarify that than anything, and that we're just being asked to match. Or to contribute towards this match goal. We are not being charged for any kind of grant writing application fees, time, whatever from the county or the tourism board or whomever.
Just that it was expensive time that I put into writing the resolutions and all these things so far, which hours and hours of mine.
Your limited days.
Well, I
Take
thought
that time back in.
I can't really.
I thought the $5,000 was this year and the ongoing years were for budgets to continue this project based on what the Tourism Bureau was going to recommend.
I think that's what Mary said.
Oh, I thought you said it was 5,000 a year for the next 3 years.
That's what I,
That is
that's
what
how
you
I
said.
interpret
That's how I'm
it.
reading it.
So is this going to go up or
No, I think it's $5,000 for the next 3 years.
$5,000?
That's how you're reading it.
That's the way I.
Which adds up to $15,000.
Yes.
Even.
Right, but so if the tourism board, the way Georgia just worded it.
Right, I thought it was different.
Oh,
if
there's
the
ancillary
tourism
fees.
board enhances this. And we want to either continue,
Well, then they have to renegotiate after 3 years,
well,
right?
but
That's not how I'm reading this.
I wanna know what we're
Signing
saying.
up.
So this is a grant for $25,000. This is a grant that the tourism office is wanting to get, and they need matching funds from municipalities. So my understanding was that Georgetown's matching donation would be $5,000. And then in this, it says, and then the tourism office would have to budget for 26 and 27. If they want to further this project or if we want to further the project. I don't see it as a $5,000 per year requirement from Georgetown, do you?
No, I just did it the one time.
Me too.
I think it's
Right.
just the-
I've seen it.
Fund one
There was
time.
magic this year.
Right,
Oh,
that's how I see it.
So it can come back to us though in 26 if they decide to.
It could, and we
oh,
can
so
say,
we don't.
And that we're no longer interested.
that's right,
There's an out.
there's an out. That's how I'm reading it. No, I have not spoken to anybody about this, but when I read it, that's how I saw it. So we may want to get some clarity.
Yeah.
Is it the 50-50 match?
It
Or
I
is
don't know
it
what the percentage of.
Yeah,
Oh.
It says
Here.
PTO 2-to-1 match, 49,000 max.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
so we would get 50,000.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a $50,000 grant, or maybe 75, the grant's 50 and we have to match 25.
Or CTO is 2-to-1.
So
So
what
it's
does
a
that mean?
CTO match, $49,000 max, so. To
$50,000 not gonna buy a lot of Tommy knockers.
When are they required to submit this? Tomorrow?
I
29.
think what they're trying to do right
Since we're all meeting on the 29th anyway, can we clarify this just so that we know?
So the clarification is either, is it 15,000 total or 5?
That's correct.
And if
And also,
if
what
you're
is
ready,
it?
if you're ready to do 15 over 3 years, then 5 is a gift, right?
But right now, we're only allocating, or we're only taking that money from our BPC budget for this year.
Right.
We haven't even explored our 26 or
That's
our
right.
2027 budget.
Right.
Is this one of those things that just re-ups every year? Like, in other words, this grant comes available and these matching funds, is that?
That's a question, and I don't understand it. The way I understand it, it was a one-time thing. They're applying for grant money. They want to do this trail guide for the whole county, Georgetown and part of that, everybody's included, and it's a one-time thing.
Okay.
So I don't understand this reference to the years.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the,
Well, can we just fit the motion just to make it for just this year and $5,000?
That's what I would do.
And then that way we don't have to, then we just move forward with that, and if they have more issues with it, they can come back to us.
That's what I would
So,
say.
I would say whenever the town gets into these kind of things, you always reserve the right not to budget money for things. next year.
Well, we want to make sure that we're not,
If it doesn't have outcomes,
right.
then you don't wanna keep.
But just.
And I don't want to promise 5,000 a year for the next 3 years when we don't even really know, you know what I mean? I want to, because it's a tourism board, like we
And it
unjoined
does
them.
not say that in the resolution.
Right, so did you want to go ahead and make that motion, Dwayne, that what you just said?
Yeah, so moved.
You need to say it again.
I would be.
So why are we addressing this if we have these questions out there? And if we're allocating $5,000 and it's only for the last 4 months of the year, and this doesn't even come to fruition until 26 and we're screwed, we've just given them $5,000 for nothing.
but okay, let's back up a
To get the
second. So when, we have, obviously, the grant application is for this year. I'm assuming the funds are coming in 26.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that there are some details, yeah, because we need to match half of that in budget for 25, 26, and 27. So this grant is clearly earmarked for some type of action in 25, and it could be that it was a project that was maybe already in the works that is being picked up by the new director of the tourism bureau. I do agree that we have some questions, but I also think that this is a good investment to try and get people to Georgetown where we need some assistance, and 5,000 is a pretty minimal investment in that. And, it has a good inception. It uses apps, from what I have understood.
What
It's
you missed,
using trail maps.
what you missed,
Highlights.
Amanda, is we're meeting Friday morning anyway.
Where's that?
Okay,
We have a special meeting scheduled for Friday
Oh,
morning at
that's right.
10 a.m. So we have an opportunity to get some clarification on this and to bring this back to this board.
Okay.
Friday morning with the answers so that we know what
What
we're
time is it?
So
agreeing.
I would make a suggestion that we don't muddle the special meeting with this, and maybe we table this to our next meeting.
But then
Well,
we'll have to grant.
yeah, we're not-
We can't?
Well, fair enough, let me ask you this question now, I
Alright.
mean, if you see a reason that we wouldn't want, that's a better question, because. I was assuming that we think it's a good idea, which is how much we want to give over 3 years. But you're making it like you're not sure if this is a good idea, so why didn't you think this isn't a good idea?
I'm just asking for clarification here and
But the motion I was considering making was just only covering $5,000 for 1 year, which seemed like a good idea, but correct me if I'm wrong. Cause it seems like a good idea, I'm kind of convinced from Amanda, it seems like something we need to do, and we're all willing to do it for a year. But why wait if we're waiting for clarification, it's just over 1 year or 3 years? I mean, I get going past 1 year, but the motion will only be for 1 year anyway. And if they want more, they come back to us.
I'm concerned if we aren't supporting this for the entire length of the program. This obviously is going to be a 3-year, a minimum of 3-year program. What's our impact if we're only willing to contribute a small amount now? and we may be withholding those funds for whatever reason.
Yeah, fair enough, that makes
I
sense.
think,
I get what
I
you're saying.
think waiting a couple days
That makes
is not
sense.
a big deal.
Do we need to make any changes to our special meeting?
We do, so, and we can do that really anytime before you adjourn.
Okay,
So,
I have to walk out the door at 11 a.m. on Friday morning.
We all wanna walk out the door.
Hard that, like I have an appointment for, that has to.
when does this have to be responded to? Is there a drop, I don't see,
29th.
by the 29th?
oh, so that day,
But if we're approving it that day, we're fine, and if we're not approving it that day, we're fine, and
Sure.
that's, it has to move on from there. We're just asking for some clarification, just as we asked the previous group that was before us to have all the documents and the answers for us.
Sarah, do
So,
you have any answers on this, on how you read that?
no, I'm sorry, I
so why don't we table this till the 29th and we'll have it added to the special meeting agenda?
yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
How about this?
Okay.
He suggests proper motion, which
All right.
is to continue, agenda item number 5, consideration of resolution for tourism marketing grant application to the, special meeting on August 29th, and further to direct that the notice of that special meeting be expanded to, include discussion and action on item number 5.
Very good. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
And second,
Second, Rich.
Rich, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very good, thank you. We will table that until our special meeting. Our last action agenda item is a consideration of an IGA with Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office. And you also, as we know, was added to your packet, this memorandum of understanding. Amanda, that should be in front of you
Yes,
somewhere.
Thank you.
And so Dennis, I will leave that to you for comment and direction.
Yes, I think there's been enough communication on this that you understand that the IGA that was put in the packet was sent to us by the county attorney and reviewed by Jerry and myself. It was placed on the agenda. Police Judge Georgia and I had a meeting with the sheriff's office, and we communicated our interests in this matter, let's put it that way. And the sheriff was very willing to work with us, and so over the weekend sent an email with a counter proposal that said, here's what we're willing to do. I shared that information with everybody on the board, I think it was on Sunday. And so asked Jerry to memorialize that email into a MOU so that we have some piece of paper that we could actually consider this evening. I sent that MOU over to the sheriff's office. They reviewed it this morning. They are okay with what has been written here. The only caveat that they asked me to remind you is that what they're asking for is if you choose to do the MOU, the caveat is at the end of September, the board chooses one of two options. One, engage the county sheriff and ask them to enter into negotiations for a long-term IGA for the provision of law enforcement services, which is what the task force is considering at the moment. Or ask for an IGA that is what is before you originally in the agenda packet this evening, which would provide the town the opportunity to restart its own police department. Is that clear? Does everybody understand? Because they wanted to make sure everybody understood, they don't want any miscommunication. And so this evening, I am recommending that the board approve the MOU that Jerry has written that memorializes the sheriff's offer to provide patrol services to the town of Georgetown. There will be no cost for this service over the month of September. And then we would continue to work towards the finish of the work of the task force and the board of selectmen making a final decision and recommendation on police services.
But at the end of this MOU, we can go into the IGA
That would be one of the choices before the board at that time.
at that time. So any comments or questions on the MOU or the IGA as it now stands before you?
The only comment I had is I want to recognize that it's very appreciative of the sheriff's office being so responsive, in line with the frustrations that I particularly felt after our last meeting. And I appreciate them, being supportive and understanding about how important this is to our community, and I thank everyone for putting out this effort to getting this resolved.
Any other comments or questions?
So are we just approving the MOU tonight and then we're looking at this IGA?
Well, the MOU covers you for September
Right,
and, lets you have the month of September, figure out, whether it's gonna be an IGA that's, as originally proposed, kind of provides you with a level of service for some money, while clearly you continue to think about a town police department, or as Dennis described, go the other direction. It looks like we really, do want to have the sheriff's office provide that. In other words, finish the work of it, buys you a month for the task force to.
right, just
kind of
by
finish.
approving the MOU.
That's correct.
Right, and so since the task force is meeting tomorrow and hopefully coming to a conclusion and a recommendation that's going to come to this board. I would hope at our next meeting, that's all still within the timeframe of September.
Yep. that works.
And we're in a better position where we're looking at this IGA with a little bit more knowledge in our back pockets.
That's correct. I think that's exactly right.
Is there any guarantee that this IGA would be the one that they would consider on October 1?
Yes,
Okay,
because this is a basic cost per call,
Okay.
so,
So-
and even if the board, which has happened before, says, we wanna table something. I'm making a joke for the season, but in reality, let's say the September comes and the board says, hey, we wanna talk some more, or we wanna have an open house, or whatever. And we wanna talk about police services some more. Then we would say to the sheriff's office, hey, we want the IGA with the cost model, because we still want more time to talk about this. And I think the important thing is we just continue to communicate with the sheriff's office wherever we're going. And as long as they understand where we're at and they're willing to help, I think we're still in a good place, because this is an important decision that this board has to make, and it can't just be, now we have to make the decision because our backs are against the wall.
any other comments? Do I hear a motion for something?
I motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for law enforcement services with the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office effective September 1st of 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so the MOU is approved. You're gonna go into staff reports. I do not have a report. I'll start with Board of Selectmen. Mary, let's start with you. I don't have anything. Okay, Rich?
Went to the finance meeting.
Yes.
It's changed names a few times, but the county went over some of the required language, especially with, what do they call it? Georgia D. Tabor,
To debruce.
Yeah, figuring out how you put it.
But debruce the, proposed property tax increase on unincorporated Clear Creek County. And I understand that part of that is going for emergency services, the fire authority, but also to fund the chat.
And fire mitigation.
Yeah, fire mitigation, but also the chat services, mental health services.
Mhm.
Yep, and I think they have a decision to make before the first.
I think it is. It's a big day.
And so the county, the county commissioners made have every intention of putting that on the ballot, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then the fire authority did some. Just moving staff around, a captain's deal, so they have better coverage. They are looking at, maybe doing some reorganizing in job descriptions. And wondering about the outcome of that election in November, so.
Very good. Alex?
I have nothing.
Okay, and Rob?
The Parks and Rec, board had, Tom Paxton run the meeting. I was unable to attend, but, Christian Wildbound is now the chairman.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
And, that's all.
very good, thank you. Dwayne,
I got nothing.
I got nothing. You just ran 100 miles. Amanda,
on the day after our last meeting, I attended the Clear Creek Economic Resiliency Coalition, at the Monarch in Blackhawk. It was very bougie. It was, and,
How that's spelled in this.
BOUGIE.
Oh.
We isolated the priorities for the coalition, so what this group has done since the first quarter meeting is basically narrow into focuses. And a recap of the priorities identified were the Idaho Springs Mobility Hub, the United Regional Child Care Plan, food desert strategies and access to healthy food, regional broadband expansion, aging population services, which is tied into some other things, fire mitigation, which is tied to other agencies, affordable housing, tourism services, including retail leakage, solar season, outdoor recreation expansion, workforce development, and hotel development. So there's 10 priorities. That's what we came through.
Was that the short list?
That's the short list. So the next meeting is when we're all gonna get put onto projects. And so there's gonna be like another round of like, how do we get there? And all of us will get assigned to a project area, and then that will be our focus moving forward. So that's currently what this group is working on, and it was a really great meeting. The next meeting will be here in Georgetown on Wednesday, November 12th.
where are they gonna have it in Georgetown?
They haven't said yet, it's TBD,
Okay, very good.
so yeah.
Thank you. Okay, town attorney, Jerry?
Nothing other than to, say that I will shortly be bringing to you, more materials on the, countywide lease of water rights for, augmentation for the Big One project. That included good order. There'll be some things you'll need to work on that basically implement the 2018 development agreement that Kurt and Company signed. What is that now? 9 years ago? It just ripped by
Time flies.
like it was yesterday, but that's all I've got.
At least we're all still here, right?
We are all still.
That's a good thing.
Town clerk report, I know you're newly back, Bridget.
Welcome back.
We're very happy to see you.
Those pajama bottoms?
All right, well then we shall.
But I'm working from home, I'm still, I'm processing a bunch of special events, work permits for some events during September and November. I am still Jay's on 6, their liquor license has been approved locally, it's now state level getting processed. Working on minutes, so, and raising the baby.
Oh, very good, thank you. All right, Q, town treasurer report.
Still working with Lorraine and Mayberry on the audit. This is our year-to-date budget. If you have questions, my door is open. You can email me. The top couple pages are a summary and analyze the following 19 pages.
I think so.
Thanks, kid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Q, is the sales tax broken out? I know it's part of this. Main sources of general fund revenue. So is there more breakdown just so we can see like what's lodging, what's sales? That's in there.
So your 19 pages.
Oh,
The 19 pages is broken down by GL line item.
okay, thank you. Thank you. That is awesome.
Some light reading for.
I know, right? Thank you. Okay, town administrator, Dennis.
Thank you. In light of time this evening and the need to get to the executive session, I only wanted to add a couple of highlights. We did have, Georgia and Mary and I did appear at the Friends of the Library meeting to talk to them about the concept of town hall moving to the library building. The meeting did go very well. We were very well received and, They have a meeting scheduled with the GLA in September, and so we expect to hear some official feedback from them on that. So we are kind of on hold on that right now. I have reached out to Colton at the county. He's now, as you know, the interim manager there. We have, we're working on scheduling a meeting next week so that we can go over some of the projects that I was working with Brian on before he departed the county. Picking those up and continuing to carry them, but also to focus mainly on talking again about the county annex as a possible location for the town. The marketing and events manager position has been posted now for coming up on 2 weeks, and we have 42 applications, which is very good. Wow. Very happy about that. So when we get to September 3rd, which is the closing date, we will be summarizing those and going through those as a first blush before we start to try to narrow those down to viable candidates. Amanda and I attended the PIO meeting for Guanella Pass on Monday. The focus there was on wrapping up some of the communication projects that they had been talking about prior to Amanda and I attending as members of that meeting, but most of that talk was about the press event that they're focusing and organizing for September 10th. They've invited the town of Georgetown to appear as a speaker, and we are now formulating a message to deliver during that press event. We do know that we just want to focus on Georgetown being open for business during leaf peeping and explaining in detail our transportation management plan for the town limits. And then lastly, Kasia and I had a meeting with Safe Built to talk about them taking on code enforcement. They have now responded with their affirmative that they can take that on with their workload. They are assigning a new staff person for that. And our vision is to have Safe Built in the town for 1 day a week when they ramp that person up and being able to start to tackle our list of code enforcement nuisance list in a more regular and consistent manner. I will let you know when they have engaged and started to work on that. So that's my quick list in addition to the staff report that I provided for your reading.
So at our last meeting, we had discussed whether Amanda was going to be able to participate on the interview panel for that position.
For which position?
For the BPC, the events and marketing. And you weren't here, and so we wanted to clarify whether or not, because in your role as the personnel and, well, no.
Oh, no, the personnel for task,
Yeah, we, remember when we went through that list and
Yeah.
we created you
That's fine.
a position, so
Yeah, I mean, hinging on
everything else.
my very loose and not at all busy schedule.
Yeah, that one.
I can,
Well, especially if we're getting close to where interviews can,
yeah,
Start
so
up
I'll
everything.
block out time for that. Yes, yeah.
well, we felt it was a good dual, but what you can bring to the table on that, you know, being on that
Yeah.
personnel committee and then obviously as a business owner in town.
I'm more than happy to help, so yeah, we'll work it out. Let me know what you need.
And some of these special events that Bridget is working on that are coming up in September, October, especially if they're somewhat specific to Georgetown being open. Perhaps that can be woven into the information that we share.
I'm drafting the talking points for the press conference. We have 5 minutes. We are the last organization, but it's gonna be a pretty major event. And so I will get those for feedback out to everybody. My goal is to have them done by the 1st. Because we have to have our speaker names and attendees in by the 4th.
thank you. So Kasia's report is in your packet, so we won't go over that, but I just wanted to draw attention to that you do have that. So we will now move into executive session.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I had a question too.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fireworks piece, is that something where we could, like, back in the day when the fire department did the fireworks, they would have a booth, they would have something in the businesses where people could contribute. And then you've got an idea how much, support you would have for a fireworks display, for the Christmas market. It seems to me that there, you could have someone, design a one-page flyer with a QR code where people could contribute. And have it up during leaf peeping season and find out what kind of response you would have if people wanted to donate that, see that fireworks display happen.
That's a great idea, but the one thing I will say, if we decide, we're to this point, we've got a quote.
Right.
We haven't ventured past that yet. But I will say, if we don't venture past that soon and make a decision and a commitment, then the vendor is gonna say, we're not able to do it. And then now we're planning for 4th of July, which is fine. But if we're going to wait until the end of October to sign the deal with the fireworks display company, it's gonna be too late.
So I have a
But you could even use that
Yeah.
as a scenario in your interviews for marketing promotions person and what that might look like or entail. Because those folks can knock out a one pager like that, the folks that have that training and experience.
Did you have a comment? Go ahead. Well, I understood from Kasia that we were wanting to do the fireworks on the 4th of July and bring them back, and that this Christmas market one was a, kind of a test case to see, hey, can we do them downtown? Maybe we can do them off of the top of a building or different things like that. Is that not the case? Because I think having them on the 4th of July would make a lot of sense as a.
I think that's what I just said. I'm not, 4th of July is separate.
Separate.
All I said was, if we don't get this done quickly on a decision for Christmas market, then we're only looking at 4th of July. Does that make sense?
No, not to what you, well, we can talk about that
Okay.
later. Okay,
So in Keisha's report, she indicated that, the leaf peep enclosure map was referenced on here. I guess two things, you just wanna make sure that that's on the BPC agenda was coming up next week, so that there's a little bit of input, not input, just awareness. But how are we communicating to the residents on Rose Street? That, I mean, because that's gonna be a bigger impact, I think, on them. If there's, especially if there is no parking on Rose Street, so that, you know, or are we allowing parking on Rose Street? Because the parked cars help slow down the traffic, even though there are stop signs that people don't like to stop
I
at.
think this is important enough that we mail the plan to everybody.
Just for, you know, again, transparency, communication
Absolutely.
with our
Yeah,
residents so that they
I
know.
think at the very basic, every resident should receive this in the mail.
yep,
Yeah.
And then the other things would take over, like social media, blasts, posting on the website.
It's going on the water bills as well.
I
Yeah,
mean, and I know people will still say, I didn't know that, I didn't
Sure.
hear that, but, you know, the more we saturate.
I agree, I don't think you can do too much
Yeah,
this year.
I just wanna make
First
sure
year
that
that would be aggressive with the plan. So be aggressive with the social media
There you go.
and the
There you go.
communication, but in terms of the parking on Rose Street. I think that's something that we should explore. We've been talking about dry runs, we've been talking about doing a radio test day with the sheriff's department. Think anything we can do to prepare for this and test things out in reality, I think is good for us in the preparation, because this is new ground.
So we'll all line up in our cars.
so there's no parking on Rose Street, the whole street? I've read
Mary
that
just
map.
asked that.
What
I know, but I
I,
thought you, when you said residents, I was thinking of like south of.
no,
you
so,
know,
so think the prime weekends of leaf peeping, I'm not
Right.
saying Monday through Thursday necessarily, but if we're altering the route for one-way traffic,
Yeah, I didn't.
are we going to have no parking even on one side of the street? However, Dwayne lives on part of the speed strip, you know, sometimes those parked cars have a tendency, you know, they will slow people down too. So I mean, it could be a good thing. I don't know. I'm just rolling this out as things to consider as
Yeah.
we're still exploring. So.
Right, And I don't know.
And just to
that-
communicate that plan to everybody,
Yes.
as much as they want to listen. Okay,
And the other thing to consider is we also are planning a special event, there's 2 special events that are currently under planning during that time period, so would. The parking plan for those special events impact this? Absolutely, so that might be something different,
so we just have to think of all of the above,
right? Yeah,
put it on the resilience.
and then in the end, wing it.
And then all the leaves will turn brown and they'll fall off on a Wednesday.
With the rain already gone.
So,
They're going
All
early.
of the meteorological predictions, meteorology. Are saying it's gonna go pretty early. I think we're gonna start in 2 weeks.
I do,
So. I think,
and we have no control over that,
none.
Mother Nature did.
but I also think that there's a lot of factors into what makes leaf season so crazy. And it's better to be prepared, but I think we've done a lot of prep to try to avoid some of last year's stuff, and it's just, we can only control what happens in this town. That's all we can control. We have no control what happens past our city limits.
But we also have blinders on and we only think it happens here, and it happens in so many different places throughout the state at different times and different weekends. So, you know, you can also hear those same news reporters or the meteorologists talking about where they don't wanna drive to either, because it's stop and go no matter what. So it's not just happening in Georgetown, we're not that special. You know, it's.
No, and we're
Sorry.
doing things like, we're paying and contracting Colorado State Police to help. We're contracting and paying Idaho Springs Police Department to help. We have the volunteers from the ice hockey group helping. We have the Rangers are being contracted to help. And in the end, it might end up being too much, but
We have plans.
we have a plan. And if the plan is a little too much, next year we tweak it and it gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better. That's what I'm hoping to see.
So the New York goods.
Yeah,
those, right, yeah.
not the avalanche. Yep.
Oh, damn.
No avalanche.
That'd be cool though. You know, see them out there and all they do.
Okay, any other comments? Before we move into executive session?
Rob has the motion.
Good, Rob. I move to go into executive session, the executive session under CRS 246402 and E. The town administrator, town attorney, and special counsel and appropriate staff to receive legal advice and instruct negotiators concerning the McHugh and Gaskin versus town of Georgetown litigation. Further move to adjourn the open meeting at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in executive session and it is 7:32.
Can we take a,